Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about 10 horror movies that I highly recommend. And with that, let's get to the list. The Substance is a 2024 body horror movie. Co-produced, written, and directed by Courtney Fergit. It stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. A fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself.
This is The Substance.
So I've kept it no secret that I think this is the best horror movie this year, period. Each year, we're lucky if we get that one movie that just stands out. Like last year, we had When Evil Lurks, and to me, it was a runaway for the best. Even though there's a couple other ones that were amazing as well, that was the one that really kind of rose above the rest. And this year, to this point, The Substance seems to be that one. But the main reason I'm talking about it is now streaming. You can rent it, buy it for like $19.99, but on Prime, you could sign up for a 7-day free trial membership to Mubi. It's like a new streaming service. I don't know. I'm not getting any kickback, so don't worry. This isn't a promotion or anything like that. I'm just letting you know how you can watch this movie for free. Either way, you need to see this and be part of the conversation because we just don't get movies like this anymore. It has amazing body horror, incredible acting, and beyond all that, it actually has a really powerful, important message to it as well. Because even though this is mostly focused on women and the situation women have in Hollywood, but just in general in society about their looks fading and all of a sudden feeling like they have no self-worth, there's a lot of men that deal with body dysmorphia as well. I'm someone who, with my weight, it's always been kind of a thing where I never am thin. I'm always a little bit husky and always battling my weight. It's been this way since I was a kid. And it's funny, that's the first time I've ever said that out loud on any public platform. But we all deal with stuff like this, and aging and weight and all these different things can really stunt us as far as who we are in society. And so I think the message and the way this movie delivers it is incredible. It's well shot, well directed, all the special effects are amazing in it, but I just think this movie is incredible, and it's one that I highly, highly, highly recommend. Them is a 2006 French-Romanian horror movie. Co-written and directed by David Moreau, it stars Olivia Boname and Michael Cohen. A married couple live peacefully in an isolated country home, but one night they wake up to a group of hooded assailants that terrorize them all night. So I had a really hard time finding this streaming anywhere, but I wanted to talk about it because the director, David Moreau, that did this, also did the movie I talked about a couple weeks ago, Mads, that's available on Shudder right now. And I think that movie is amazing. It's unique and refreshing and just a really well done movie. But this film right here, this is a groundbreaking movie. It's the one that in a lot of ways, most people think that The Strangers kind of ripped off and did an American version, so to speak, of this. But this one has a couple really unique things about it that separate it from other movies. I'm not gonna say what it is because I'm not gonna spoil it here, but this movie is dark and disturbing. It's gritty and grimy and very uncomfortable and will stick with you after you've seen it. But the only place I can find it streaming right now is on Prime with a free trial 7-day membership to one of the little add-on things. But I'm sure there are other ways, if you look hard enough, that you'll be able to find this streaming somewhere. But I think it's a truly special movie, and one that if you've never seen, you need to do yourself a favor and find a way to watch this.
You better stay away.
I'm sorry.
Stay away. Stay alive.
Sleep.
The Edge of Sleep is a 2024 psychological thriller series, written by Jake Emanuel and Willie Block. It's directed by Corey Adams and is based on the podcast and novel of the same name. It stars Markiplier, Eve Harlow, and Franz Drama. When a night watchman finishes his shift at work, he is horrified to discover that everyone the night before who went to sleep has died.
Have you ever heard of something like this? A virus that kills you in your sleep?
No.
How long can someone stay awake for?
Varies from person to person, several days, maybe.
So I rarely cover series just because it's such a time commitment, and I just have a hard enough time keeping up with all the movies I need to watch to share with you guys. And so it's just something that's very difficult for me to do. But in this case, it's a really short, compact series. It's only 25-minute episodes, and there's only 8 of them. So it really is just kind of like watching a movie. So I pretty much binged the entire thing in one night. But I'm a fan of Markiplier. He's one of the OGs on YouTube, if you're not familiar with him. He's just a very funny, likable person, but he's been working on a horror movie called The Iron Lung. But in the meantime, he did this series where he acts in it and produces. And so I saw him talking about it and figured I would check it out and see if it was worth talking about on the channel or if it was just worth watching in general. And I'm here to say it's definitely worth watching. Now, you got to keep in mind with this series, it's a very small budget they're working with. So it's not huge special effects. It's not these giant scenes and sets and things like that. But for the way the story is told and the situation that it all takes place in, it works really well because it does a really good job of setting up this creepy scenario that's just haunting, and the way that it all plays out, it's very mysterious and just leaves you wondering and trying to figure out what is actually going on. But beyond that, it gets very cosmic horror, Lovecraftian at times, and there's these weird figures and things that happen in these characters' dreams, and the visuals are really cool, and especially with the budget they're working with. Now, if you watch this and pick it apart, I'm sure you'll find flaws with it because, like I said, it is a very small budget kind of thing. But it's actually well acted, and I was surprised in Markiplier's case because I've never seen him act in anything really before. And it's one thing to have charisma and be able to do videos like this, it's another thing to do a scripted TV series. But besides him, I was really impressed with Eve Harlow. I've seen her in a few little roles here and there, but nothing really major. But I think she is a budding star because she's just so charismatic, so interesting and compelling on screen. But if you're looking for an exciting indie series to binge, this is a great pick.
Uh-oh. We need to know what's really going on.
Blink Twice is a 2024 psychological thriller directed by Zoe Kravitz. It stars Naomi Ackie, Channing Tatum, and Christian Slater. When tech billionaire Slater King meets cocktail waitress Frida at his fundraising gala, he invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation on a private island. But as strange things begin to happen, Frida begins to question her reality.
We're going to my island for a few days.
Do you guys want to come?
This is crazy.
This is by no means a perfect movie, but I do think it's a damn good one. First of all, Channing Tatum is incredible as a villain in this, and I really hope we get to see more of a darker side of him acting down the road, because honestly, this was my favorite thing I've seen him in. It was the one where he just felt like he was actually acting the most in, because so many things you see him in, it just kind of feels like he's being himself. He's just being this charming, charismatic guy playing the hunk, and that's just what he does. And for half of this movie, that's what he does in this. But I mean, it's pretty apparent immediately in this the directions that it's gonna go. So even though you know he's the villain right away in this, the directions that it goes and how dark and gritty it gets is what's surprising. On top of that, it does have a few little twists and turns that I personally didn't see coming. But at one point in this, it really goes for it, and it surprised me. And it went from being your run-of-the-mill Hollywood thriller to a much more dark movie that had more to say and a lot more layers to it than I expected. I also have to mention that for this being the first film that Zoe Kravitz has directed, I'm impressed. It's well shot, it's well directed. The whole way it looks in general and the way it's packaged together feels fresh and exciting. That's not to say there are no flaws in it, but I do think she's off to a great start and I'm really excited to see what she does next. But if you're a fan of psychological thrillers, I think this is definitely worth adding to your list.
Consider yourself lucky.
Cuckoo is a 2024 sci-fi horror thriller. Written and directed by Tillman Singer, it stars Hunter Schafer, Dan Stevens, and Jessica Henwick. A 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are not what they seem. So at this point, this might be the most polarizing movie of the year because I've seen people who love it, who think it's the best movie this year, found it to be scary and all these different things. But then I've seen just as many people who despise this movie, who feel like it was an absolute waste of time, a waste of their money to go see. I fall more on the side of someone who really enjoyed it, but I do understand where the people who are not big fans of this are coming from because it's a very weird movie. It's not really like anything else, and it's quirky and just strange and not your traditional kind of scary movie. It's hard to even label what this movie is exactly. But I love layered movies. I enjoy quirky and strange movies, ones that do things that are not normal, movies that are refreshing because they come at things from a different perspective. So I personally enjoyed the weird. I love the art house kind of movies, and this is very much in that camp. It's really interesting to look at. I love how colorful the palette and the way that it's shot is. I love the special effects. I really enjoy the pacing of it, especially in the scenes that are more scary. It does a really good job of kind of setting up these ominous situations. But it's a movie that you just kind of got to be along for the ride. If you go into this expecting anything in particular, I don't know if you'll enjoy it because it's not something that you can watch a trailer of and understand if it's going to be right for you or not. But if you're someone that generally likes the strange, the avant-garde, the art house kind of horror / sci-fi thriller movies, then I think this is one you should definitely check out. Wolf of Snow Hollow is a 2020 black comedy horror movie. Written, directed, and starring Jim Cummings. It also stars Ricky Lindholm, Chloe East, and Robert Forster in his final performance. A stressed out police officer struggles to not give in to the paranoia that grips his small mountain town as bodies begin to turn up after each full moon. This is such a fun, creative, quirky, and very stylish kind of movie. It's very funny, but in a black comedy satire type of way. It's not overtly funny per se, because you can just feel the situation that his character's in. Because everyone around him is just kind of given into the paranoia and he's trying his damnedest to stay grounded and be like, hey guys, this is not something supernatural. This is a serial killer and we need to catch this guy. The rest of the cast are great in this as well. And it's really nice to see Robert Forster in his final performance because he was such an incredible actor. It has some twists and turns and is really just a fun movie to watch and one that I think is definitely worth your time.
Point of life. It isn't just one thing. What is the point?
Rebirth is a 2023 psychological horror movie. Directed by Laura Moss and her directorial debut, it stars Marin Ireland, Judy Reyes, and AJ Lister. A morgue technician successfully reanimates the body of a little girl. But to keep her breathing, she will need to harvest biological materials from pregnant women.
This experiment is bigger than your daughter. My daughter is not an experiment. That's Muriel. She died 2 months ago.
This is a really cool twist on the whole Frankenstein story because the Frankenstein monster, so to speak, in this is this little girl. And so you want to see her succeed. You don't want to see it being put down like a monster or anything like that. So in this movie, you're rooting for them, but at the same time, the things that they're starting to have to do begin to get more and more disturbing, more and more creepy, and it gets actually pretty dark in it. It's well produced, it looks great, the cast is incredible in this, everyone from the little girl all the way up. Everybody just gives really powerful performances here. This was actually one of my top 10 of the best of 2023. That's how good I think this movie is. But it's not a fun watch, it's a gloomy, dour, bleak kind of movie. But if that sounds like something that you would be into, then I think this is definitely a must-see.
This is for your own good.
Spell is a 2020 supernatural thriller. Directed by Mark Tendari, it stars Omari Hardwick, Loretta Devine, and John Beasley. A man crash lands in rural Appalachia and awakens in the attic of a hoodoo priestess, so he desperately tries to break free from her magic to save his family.
I need an ambulance.
Ain't no hospital within 50 miles of here. Where you think you is? New York City?
This is such a cool movie. It's a very small one, so you have to be aware of that going in and not have super high expectations or anything like that. But I love the look of it and the style of it. I've always been a fan of old world kind of magic, things that are witchcrafty and look creepy in that way. But I especially love movies that delve into the evil side of hoodoo and voodoo. Not to say that those beliefs are necessarily evil or anything. I'm just saying, like, when you go into the darker side of those, that black magic kind of area, I love that stuff. I think it's so fun. But there's a couple fun little twists and things that happen that were unexpected. Just the directions that it goes as far as magic and supernatural elements, it went more into that than I expected it to. But there's also some cool little things that it does and the directions that it goes with the magic and the supernatural elements that I found to be really entertaining as well. But the cast do a great job, especially Loretta Devine. I've only ever seen her play this sweet, loving kind of lady, and so to see her in a more evil role, I thought was great. I think this is a really entertaining little movie that's definitely worth checking out. Vacancy is a 2007 horror thriller. Directed by Nimrod Atal, it stars Kate Beckinsale, Luke Wilson, and Frank Whaley. Stranded in an isolated motel, a couple becomes the unsuspecting subjects of a snuff film.
What movie is that?
I don't know.
Is that this room?
It sure looks like it.
In a lot of ways, I feel like this movie has been forgotten, and it's really a shame because it's a lot more gritty and entertaining than I think we remember it to be. I mean, it was never a big hit per se, but I don't even know if this has much of a cult following, and I think it really deserves it because Frank Whaley especially is worth seeing in this. He is so interesting. The character he plays, he does a great job at it. But I think this movie is surprisingly creepy, and maybe that's just me. But I've been in some situations in some small towns in my life where you feel at the mercy of the locals. And if they were evil, if they decided to just kill you, it feels like they could easily get away with it and no one would give a shit. And I don't mean that as an indictment on small towns because that's not the case. But there have been situations that I've been in where you can just feel the energy from the locals and that they despise you and they just don't want you there. Especially looking how I look with tattoos and being a little weird looking, especially to the eyes of small town America. I definitely felt that vibe and that bad foreboding feeling. But it's such a simple setup and takes place in pretty much just this one location. But it does a really good job of making that location just feel unescapable and just so creepy and haunting and disturbing in a lot of different ways. And it gets going pretty fast, and once it gets going, it never stops. It just keeps you on the edge of your seat. So if you've never seen this, or if it's been a while, this is one you definitely should check out. Thanksgiving is a 2023 slasher horror movie, co-written and directed by Eli Roth. It stars Addison Rae, Patrick Dempsey, and Rick Hoffman. After a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. So I just love this movie. It's so much fun. It's everything I want in a holiday-inspired slasher. Because all the way back in 2007, Roth released this mock trailer, and we've all ever since hoped we would one day see this turned into an actual movie. And I know it didn't quite go as hard in some ways as some people wanted, but I love what he did here. I really do. I think it's just great. I think I saw this movie like 6 times last year when it came out because it's just so much fun. It's not anything to take serious at all. However, surprisingly, this was actually really well done. I enjoy the characters in it. I like some of the directions and choices that were made here. It's a better put together movie than it really even needed to be. But I remember walking out and immediately going, I just can't wait for Thanksgiving 2. I just want every year, like we did with the Saw franchise for a long time, to have another Thanksgiving movie. Unfortunately, we're not getting a new one this year, but we are supposed to get one for next year. Either way, I just love that we finally have a good horror movie that we can point to and celebrate every time of year when it's Thanksgiving time. And that's why, if you see behind me, I have my Thanksgiving poster. I just think this movie is a blast. So like I try to do on most of my list, I end them with something that's just fun, something you don't have to take too serious. You can kick your feet up, eat some popcorn, and relax to. And I think this is a perfect pick for this Saturday night. So do yourself a favor this weekend, guys. Pick one of the movies off of this list, grab your popcorn and your candy, and enjoy! And I want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean so much to me. And if you would like to help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description, or you can become a channel member and help support the channel that way by clicking on that join button down there. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button, and remember, guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch me talk about 10 more horror movies that I highly recommend. And I'll see you guys next time.